France is a European country having the largest number of Muslims with more than 5.7 million people, accounting for 8.7% of the population. In the past, the Muslim population hated the France, and it had recently spread to the Muslim countries of the Middle East. There was a wave of boycotts of France. Terrorist attacks were getting more and more increasing. So, why did Muslims hate France so much? During the 19th and 20th century, France established many colonies in North Africa. They not only plundered resources but also slaved the labor of indigenous people. Hundreds of thousands of people have been sent to France to work, but half of whom were Muslim. They worked in factories and farms like slaves. By the 1960s, the French industry was thriving, making a shortage of workers. They continued to send 600,000 Muslims to North Africa to work. These people go because they want, not by compulsion. For a long time, they felt that France is easier to live here, so they stayed and became citizens of France. In the 1970s, France experienced a serious economic crisis. Many factories were closed. Muslims became outcast labor. They lost their jobs and had to migrate to remote areas to make a living in agriculture. Over time, the gap between the rich and the poor widened between the French and the Muslims. They felt angry because of the racism when they were once hard workers to enrich France. Many young adults have joined the terrorist organization ISIS and Al-Qaeda. In addition, in recent years, the French military has actively participated in operations against Islamic extremists in Mali and Syria. France's confrontation has angered ISIS and Al-Qaeda, who regularly call on the terrorist organization in France to retaliate. Terrorist attacks were on the rise in France. Typically, in 2016, a truck was overspeeding, making 86 people dead and 400 injured. In addition, on October 16, 2020, during a class on freedom of speech, Samuel Paty showed students who were Muslims see a caricature of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. This painting depicts the most sensitive parts of a person. A few days later, the teacher was beheaded by a Muslim student. Because this painting and cartoons from Charlie Hebdo magazine have been repeatedly criticized by Muslims, it is also the cause of a series of previous attacks. After this incident, the government of France launched a hunt for suspected Islamist extremists and closed some churches. They also hung caricatures of the Prophet in many public places. French President Emmanuel Macron has defended the behavior of the teacher along with Charlie Hebdo magazine, saying that the country has the right to freedom of speech and he had Islam is the religion that causes crisis in the world. Previously, the French government also introduced a law banning Muslims from covering the headscarf, making the situation increasingly tense. After the French president's speech, many Muslim leaders spoke out, and their people took to the streets to protest. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Turkish president, criticized the French president that he should be treated for mental illness. The French president responded, saying Erdogan was making matters worse. After that, Charlie Hebdo magazine was allowed to publish pictures of Mr. Erdogan drinking and sitting next to women, while Islam forbids drinking. Soon after, President Erdogan called on the people to boycott French goods. In Pakistan, Prime Minister Imran Khan said Mr. Macron was hurting the feelings of Muslims and encouraging Islamophobia around the world. Thousands of protesters marched to the French embassy to protest. In Bangladesh, tens of thousands of people marched through the capital Dhaka, chanting, "Boycott French products," and calling Macron the world's biggest terrorist. In Palestine, protesters burnt pictures of President Macron and chanted the slogan, "With my soul and blood, I will redeem the prophet." In Somalia, thousands of protesters abandoned Mr. Macron, some shops even displaying French products with the signs, "Not for sale." In Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, some supermarkets removed French products and called for a boycott. In India's Mumbai, about 100 posters depict Mr. Macron with the boot on his face, calling him the devil, and plastered on sidewalks and roads. Many other Muslim countries such as Syria, Libya, Iran, Yemen, Qatar, Algeria, Morocco, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Tunisia also had many people taking the streets to protest against Macron's actions, and at the same time call for boycott French goods. Muslim groups also voiced opposition to the law to amend its secessionist policies targeting Muslims and stop insulting over 1 billion Muslims in the world. Since the teacher's murder and the anti-Muslim rhetoric of President Macron, France has to tighten security more than ever. Dozens of terrorist attacks have taken place since then, making people on the street always on high alert and fearful for the wrench. In conclusion, Mr. Macron may not be wrong, because in the law, free speech allows cartoonists regardless of who the person is. However, for Muslims, it is not allowed to satirize gods and leaders. Moreover, many countries in the Middle East have radical Islamic organizations that are always waiting for the opportunity to incite hatred. Make security in European countries are always unstable, so that they can easily hack.